Even though the change of season here in Ecuador doesn't really matter because it's pretty much the same all year round and you get hot-ass sunshine, cloudy gloomy skies, followed by hardcore Greek gods taking a shower type of rain all in one day, I still get those fall feels this time around. October. October is here. And you know what that means. Scary movie marathon. And being the October baby that I am, I took the liberty of making a list. A movie guide, if you will, called the Halloween Countdown Spooky Movie Marathon. Yeah, I made that up. 31 days, 31 movies, and I've even taken the liberty of separating them into different categories because who doesn't like a little Monica Geller, am I right? So sit back, watch this video, like it, and subscribe. So the first category in this Halloween Spooky Movie Marathon is the animated movies category. The first movie to kick off is none other than Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas. Now, if you've never heard of this movie, did you even have a childhood? This movie used to creep me out as a kid, and I think it's one of the reasons I absolutely love Halloween. It follows Jack, the Halloween skeleton king, who gets a little bored of Halloween one day and wanders off into the forest and through a Christmas portal where he falls in love with the Christmas culture. So he tries to bring together these two worlds, and it goes horribly wrong because Christmas and Halloween are just two completely different holidays. I mean, you got Santa Claus getting tortured by the boogeyman, and you have kids getting heads for Christmas presents. So it's just a big contrast, and I think that's what I love most about this movie. Plus, it's Tim Burton, so you really can't go wrong with any of his films. The next movie in the Halloween countdown is Coraline, and it's about this little girl who moves into this really old creepy house with her parents, and they're both workaholics, so Coraline has to go off and explore on her own, and one night she finds this doll that looks just like her, but it has button eyes, and she finds this secret door behind a couch that takes her to this like alternate universe where she sees her parents, but they're a little different. They're a lot more fun to be around, and they pay more attention to Coraline than her actual parents do. So Coraline goes back and forth between her world and this supposedly better alternate world, but she starts to realize that it's not all fun and games and that her fake parents are actually kind of creepy. The next movie category is the Take Me Back to My Childhood movies. If you were a big Disney Channel fan growing up, then chances are you never missed a movie during their Halloween month marathon. Halloween Town, I think, was my first glance into what it would be like as a young witch. The movie is about a 13-year-old girl named Marnie who discovers she's a witch when she follows her grandma into Halloween Town, which up until then she thought was just a made-up place. After discovering the awesomeness that is Halloween Town, she learns that her family is fighting against some evil force that wants to take over the world. So a lot to take in when you're barely turning 13. Casper is your typical friendly ghost living in a haunted mansion along with other not-so-friendly ghosts who torment a girl named Kat and her father when they move in after being hired to exorcise them out of the house. Of course, Casper and Kat become friends, and together they go searching for this hidden machine that Casper's dad left behind, which could potentially bring him back to life. I really like this movie because it's a combination of like fun ghost and haunted mansion, but with real tragedy in that Casper is only a kid who died young and doesn't really remember much of his life, but still, classic movie. You know, I just realized that I should have made a separate category just for Tim Burton because his movies just keep rolling on in. Beetlejuice follows Adam and Barbara, a couple who straight up die pretty much in the beginning of the movie. I really didn't see that coming. Like, they crash, right? But then you see them come home all wet and like kind of normal, and then all of a sudden they step outside and go into this other world, which is pretty confusing at first, but when you see them in front of a mirror with no reflection, you're like, oh, they died. So a new family moves into their home and they try everything they can to get them to leave until they finally decide to contact none other than Beetlejuice. Edward Scissorhands is a 90s classic romance fantasy starring Johnny Depp as Edward. This experiment with literal scissorhands living in the home of his late inventor when he's discovered by this sales lady named Peg, who decides to take him to her home in this cookie-cutter suburban neighborhood with nosy, curious neighbors who obviously want to get to know Edward, so they throw him a welcome barbecue. And some have good intentions, others not so much, which causes Edward to get into some trouble. This movie, as weird as it sounds, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Titanic because there's almost this forbidden love between Edward and Peg's daughter Kim. Plus, she ends up being the old lady retelling her story, like Rose when she was old. The next category is called Everything Stephen King. This group of 7 films is a combination of psychological thriller, action, crime, drama, dead animals. You have your bullied religious girl who burns down all of her classmates after they dump pig's blood on her using only her mind. A desperate dad who brings his daughter back to life with the help of a magic pet cemetery only to discover that she's pure evil. And then we have another dad who is pure evil and goes crazy and tries to kill his son and wife at a ski lodge up in the mountains. The sequel to that story with the dad trying to kill his son, only now the son is older and an alcoholic with suppressed abilities who finds others who also have those same abilities. A lonely woman who saves her favorite writer after he crashes in the snow only to keep him hostage as he writes her another book. Siblings who get lost in a cornfield while they try to find and save other people lost in the cornfield and end up forever being lost together in that cornfield. And who can forget the clown? The classic kitty killer clown. You just can't go wrong with a good Stephen King masterpiece, whether it's the remake or the original. Except for It. That one probably just should have stayed the original. Moving on. The next category I like to call the not another cheesy teen horror movies. If there's one thing all of these types of movies have in common is that there's always an unidentified killer killing teens. For no reason. Like there's no backstory to these killers and no one really knows why they do what they do, but we love it. We love a good cheesy teen horror film with psychos obsessed with waxing up teens or chasing them in a costume with a knife or eating their flesh just because. Truth is, we'll never get tired of watching these horror thrillers. The next category I like to call foreign favorites. Whoever thought foreign films were just boring clearly hasn't seen these. Veronica follows a young Spanish girl who uses a Ouija board to summon her dead father with her friends during a solar eclipse at school. Well, she decides she wants to pass out during the process, freaking her friends out and realizing that they've unleashed a demon that torments Veronica and her family. The Orphanage. Another Spanish supernatural horror film follows Laura and Carlos with their adopted son Simon as they move into Laura's childhood home, an orphanage which she plans to reopen. Things start to go horribly wrong when Simon mysteriously disappears at their grand opening and Laura goes on a desperate, never-ending search for him with the help of a medium and some orphan spirits. This next category is called the Can't Catch This Serial Killer movies. Based on true events, Zodiac centers around the manhunt for a serial killer who not only terrorized the San Francisco Bay Area, but taunted the police for years with letters, bloody clothing, and ciphers mailed to the newspapers. This is one of those movies that leaves you so frustrated because you think they're so close to finding out who the mystery man is, and right when it seems like they're about to catch him, nothing. Now, Halloween wasn't based on true events, but it sure does seem like a believable story. Michael Myers grows up a troubled kid from a broken home. The closest thing he has to a father figure is his stripper mom who works every night. Her deadbeat boyfriend belittles Michael and teases him, and Michael's sister isn't exactly a role model either. So when nobody wants to take Michael trick-or-treating on Halloween night, what does? He goes on his first killing spree, sparing his little baby sister's life, who he comes after years later when he's escaped from his mental facility. This next category is called Spirits, Ghosts, and the Possessed. These three things are pretty much the base of any good spooky film. You got possessed little girls, little kids who are ghosts and don't know it, little boys who see dead people, more little possessed girls, little kids who join this evil demon cult and kill their families, little boys who fall into a coma but really they're just kind of possessed, and the doll. Because what's creepier than little kids? Dolls. This category of films I call the It's All in My Head movies. Out of all the different types of scary thriller horror movies, the psychological ones freak me out the most. All of the other movies are just right in your face, but psychological movies leave you thinking so many things and asking yourself so many questions when it's finished. Get Out is your typical boy meets girlfriend's parents and spends the weekend in their isolated home type of thriller. Only this one combines racial and social issues which make you think it's going to be one thing and then bam! The family actually has a secret auction for the young, handsome black man. Shutter Island follows two U.S. Marshals who are sent to an asylum on a remote island to investigate the disappearance of a patient. It might seem like a normal mystery movie, but our friend Teddy here uncovers a shocking truth about the place and himself. Seriously, the ending? Never would have seen it coming. Ever. These last couple of movies fall into a category I call vintage horror movies. These films set the bar for most, if not all, gory horror thrillers, and let me tell you, there's a reason these are notorious. The Night of the Living Dead set the trend for zombie invasion. I saw the 1990s version, but this black and white original is way better. It's pretty much straightforward, and you have all these people literally fighting off the living dead throughout the entire movie. and it's pretty awesome. Last but not least, Psycho. This ultimate Hollywood classic follows none other than our very own Norman Bates. If you've seen the series Bates Motel, you've already gotten to know Norman as a troubled young teen. But this classic horror film shows Norman as a troubled adult and the owner of, you guessed it, Bates Motel. This film is a combination of mystery and thriller, and who can forget the iconic shower scene? Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to this channel, please hit that subscribe button. I hope you guys watch most, if not all, of the movies in this list, and I'll see you in the next video.